Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Mike Fontaine, and today we're going to be talking about just-in-time manufacturing, what it is and how to set it up or how it applies in Business Central, Microsoft Dynamics Business Central. I have a long PowerPoint. I'm not going to bore you with all of the details, just sort of in summary. Just-in-time means just what you think it means. It means, being able to deliver product, being able to ship product, being able to purchase product or make product just before, not waiting and keeping it in inventory. So the concepts are low inventory, low or zero lead time, and you need to make sure that you don't have any failures or buffer for the unexpected. I'm going to kind of cruise down to a couple of slides that I thought were pretty good. I had these a long time ago. Basically, in terms of manufacturing, a lot of companies will organize their shops in cells. They'll have the saw cell, and they'll have the grinders, and then they'll have the lathes, and then maybe they'll have the presses. And you'll see in this flow diagram that you'll have product moving all over the place. So from the saws to the lathes, the grinders, the heat treat, the lathes, and the press again. And what that does is it causes unnecessary movement within the shop and disrupts the logical flow. And so what a lot of companies are doing, and I'm going to tie this back into the software in a second, is that they might be organizing in terms of lines of production. So in order to have the materials that you need to start, you would separate the departments of the saws and the grinders and have them in sort of these miniature cells or lines that flow naturally out to the end customer. So if this is organizing the manufacturing flow as one aspect, we'll also have the concept of only taking the order when it is required. So we don't build a whole bunch of inventory to stock waiting for orders. We're really trying to collect all of the components and being able to react in a make-to-order environment. And then the third concept in just-in-time is understanding what the schedule is going into the saws and then purchasing just before we start manufacturing. So those are the three aspects of what I'm going to cover today in just-in-time manufacturing. It is the make-to-order concept. It is the concept of organizing your production orders, the routings into cells that are related to the flow of material, and as well as organizing the purchasing. So those are the three things that we're going to cover. So if we come into Business Central, and I'll back out in a second, just had that open. Didn't want to start with that. So this is Microsoft Business Central. It is the next generation ERP system from Microsoft, and it has an accounting module, it has a distribution module, it has a manufacturing module. You'll see in the drop downs up top the menus that are available. Right now, I have access to everything. I have sales and purchasing and everything that I could possibly need. Just from an orientation standpoint, you're looking at a dashboard screen that is designed to be configured for your job with little KPIs or indicators that allow you to drill down into the detail. So charts and graphs, etc. So the main thing that I wanted to cover is the first aspect of making to order. So instead of having product available in inventory, we're going to explore the concept of making to order, which means that when I place a sales order, I'll just go ahead and create a sales order for a customer here for Elkhorn Airport. That will also have, I'm going to type in my finished good frame, or sorry, the bike. Now, if you were attending my previous sessions, I had set up a multi-level bill of material of the bike. You can imagine this is just a bicycle that requires a frame assembly, requires a wheel assembly. Wheels go into the wheel assembly, the aluminum bar goes into the frame. So these things are sub-assemblies that I'm not making and keeping an inventory. I'm going to make when I create the order. So right now I'm entered in the order. I don't have it in inventory. You'll even see that it pops up on the screen saying that, hey, you don't have enough inventory at this location. You could click on details and you could explore, yep, all locations are still 0. I don't have anything. I don't have any substitutes. That's it. That's all that I'm missing. So at this point, a lot of times what the customer service does is they might get into trouble by saying, oh, yeah, sure, no problem. We don't have it, but you can have it tomorrow. No, that's a bad way of organizing the shop floor. What you want to do is use this function called, where are we? I must have lost it on it, called order promising. So order promising allows you to check the schedule automatically from the sales order so that you can give a realistic date. So remember that we're kind of assuming that our constraint is more labor-based than it is material. We have the raw material, or we're hoping we have the raw material, but we don't know when we can deliver it. We don't want to over-promise and introduce a lot of change. So there's a little button here called Capable to Promise. You push it, and it will look at the existing schedule, look at the constraints, and say, yeah, you're booked up. You can't get it until 6 weeks out. So here, just as an example, I wanted it on the 1st. It says we can't have it on the 1st. You can have it on the 5th with a possibility of getting it on the 4th. So now that's good customer service. You're able to clearly tell them what you are able to successfully deliver on time, just in time. Now, if you needed to do, if you're a little bit worried about the inventory, you would click on Available to Promise. It would do the same calculation, but instead of looking at labor as a constraint, it would look at materials as a constraint. Same idea, looks to see what you have in inventory, what you need, and then places the best date. So I'll just accept that, and there we go. It would have populated the date off to the side here. So we have our shipment date. So great. Now I would probably send that out as an order acknowledgement. That would be the next step. I'd say, yeah, we're going to confirm your order. Are you okay with having it on the 4th of December in this case? Now, if you needed to, you would go into this availability by the bill of material, and you could cruise through a fully indented bill of material to see if you had enough components. Now, in my fictitious example, I didn't buy the paint. Here, take that out. Yeah, I didn't buy the paint or the aluminum or the spokes or the tires. But if I had, it would say, oh, well, you could make from the components the 1 or 50 finished good bikes. And in fact, maybe I should do that just to help illustrate what the screen is able to do. So I'm just going to take 30 seconds right now and go into those items and adjust them in so that you can kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about. Maybe I'll do it everything but one item. So a little easy way of getting into the item screens. And now I had all of my raw material for the bike with this prefix. Yeah, I don't have anything right now, but that's okay. We're just going to go in and adjust the inventory up. I have many different locations. That customer ships out of the yellow, so we're going to say that we need 50 of this. A little easy way of adjusting in the inventory. I'll do the same thing with the handlebars. And the paint and the seat. So I'm kind of assuming that I have these materials in inventory, except for, let's say that I'm not gonna keep the tires in inventory, or only had a couple of tires in my example. So just bear with me as I do a little bit of inventory adjustments. Adjust inventory. Go. And the spokes, oh, do that too. And the tires, I'll just say that I have a couple of them. I'll have maybe 4. Okay, we're gonna come back to that screen in a second, but so what I wanted to show is that if you were here and you went to the bill of material, it will pop up saying, well, we're able to produce probably 46 in total if I have all of the components that are required. So this starts to fill out, and it'll say up at the top what we could possibly produce. So that gives you a pretty good idea. The main thing is that if you're an order entry, you would just say, well, let's do order promising. And then I would come over to planning, and I would go ahead and create my production order, which is now make to order. Now, whether you have someone in order entry do this, or whether someone in scheduling do this, I like the idea of the order entry people doing it. It's only one button. It will do multiple lines all the way down. Oh, I think we messed up a policy on this bike. Let me just drill in and make sure this is not a purchased item. Should have been okay. Okay, I don't know what's going on, but I will maybe just make it bigger. One more time, and then I'll change the item. Okay, so we've created our work order, making 50 bikes to order, and now up at the top, kind of cool, you can update shipment dates from updated schedule. So if someone was updating the schedule of a production order, you could update it. I'm going to go in and not look at the job costing, but I'll just go in into order tracking. And then from order tracking, we could jump in and take a look at the production order. Now, what is unique on this production order, you can see that I have one order that will simultaneously build the finished product, the bike. The bike is consisting of a frame assembly and a frame and a wheel assembly. So the frame and the wheel assembly, they go into the frame assembly, and the frame assembly plus components goes into the manufacturing of the bike. And so this is an example of not having to put into inventory or manage safety stocks of these sub-assemblies, but I'm building them to order all the way down. And if we come in and we look at each one of these lines, they'll have the routing, which is the work instructions. I don't think I had any on this one. I just had assembly as a general example. And I'll have components that go into it. I'm going to go into the frame. And we'll see, I think on the frame I had the aluminum tubing and the paint. So that's the bill of material requirements. So this is the first part of explaining like a make to order or just in time. So I'm waiting until I get the order, and then I'm creating the production order. And the advantage of creating the production order with a multi-level is now it's very simple for me to manage. I have one document that will keep track of all of the job costing. So I don't have to pull together 4 or 5 different pieces of paper to give me a total cost of the product. I can go into one screen. I can also just change the due date of this production order or the start dates, and I've now changed all of the sub-assemblies. All of the sub-assemblies will follow together. The third thing that it does is it will allow us to print a work order traveler. Now, a work order traveler, I think I have to go to a different screen to print that, is a document that will physically identify product on the shop floor, and in particular with this frame assembly. So I type in bike here. We have this thing called a production order and routing. It's kind of a goofy name, but it's basically the work order traveler that will identify where to go and what to build. And I wanted to show this because it creates separate pieces of paper that physically identify and flow the product towards the finish line. There we go. So we open this up. This one piece of paper, this one work order says, hey, we're building a bike and you need these components. And then we go to the handlebar seat and then the frame assembly. Now, the frame assembly is a sub-assembly. That's on a separate piece of paper. This is the order now for the frame assembly that says we need the frame and the wheel assembly. And then we have another piece of paper that says for the frame. And so each one of these pieces of papers goes out to the floor and it physically identifies the work in process and what's required to manufacture this. But it's going to pull it forward with this number. So if I go back to my little diagram, if you have a shop that is like this, then you would end up saying, okay, well, this is my frame assembly department, and I'm going to put the piece of paper there, and I'm going to put the wheel assembly here, and I'm going to put the bike assembly here, and then this is the finished good. The idea is that as you begin to complete, you move product to maybe a staging area with a little sleeve, and that will pull the product all the way towards the finishing department. That's an example like this. If it is something more like this, where it's more in line, where the bike comes here and then things are built as we move forward, you're going to set it up a little bit differently. And I'll show you what that would look like. So back into our production order, you would want to do one of two things. If you already have something like this, then you would probably just go into something called, where are we? I'm going to go back into the bike assembly, and we'll show you what you would do to flatten the bill of material. So in that line assembly, you do not want to have multiple sub-assemblies. There's no need for it because it's being literally built all together. So we'll go into the FG bike. So this bill of material lists right now the individual assemblies, but what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change it from not the frame assembly as an item, which creates the second line. I'm going to call it a production BOM, and that I'll put the frame assembly back. And what that's going to do, it's going to flatten out the bill of material. When I flatten out the bill of material, I now will need to say, well, what workstation am I going to be performing this function? So I'm first going to just flatten the bill of material and show you what that looks like. And then we're going to go back and add clarity. We'll add other items into it, and then we'll add clarity into it. So I'll come back to my released production order. So I'm now on the second part. The first part I said I was showing how to make a make to order, or how the make to order process would work. And the second one is turning your, if you're transforming your company into more of a flow, continuous line, then you would have that indented bill of material, and now we're going to flatten it out. So I'll go ahead and make one of these. And when I say refresh production order, what that's going to do is, right, you'll see that, hey, what happened to my frame assembly? It kind of disappeared. What it did is it exploded the bill of material inside of here. So I'll now have, and then that frame assembly just had these two items. I'll go back and put the frame and the wheel in, and that will give you an idea of the complete flattening of the bill of material. So come back out. Okay, so we're going to certify and move that. And now the BOM, which is the frame. And the next one is the wheel. So when you do it this way, you're able to set up a unique bill of material. You can maintain it here. So if there's product changes, it will do it. But now it's going to create a very different style of production order. And that production order will end up completely flattening out the bill of material. There won't be any sub-assemblies. It'll just say, oh, we'll need raw material in order to produce it. So over here, we'll just come back and refresh the production order. So when I do that, all of these sub-assemblies will disappear on me. They should have disappeared on me. What am I doing wrong? I think I don't need this guy because the other two are taken into consideration. Come down. There we go. So it completely flattens the bill of material and takes all of the components, all the purchase items, and it kind of jams it into this list. So now I don't see the sub-assemblies anymore. I just see the paint and the spokes and the tire rims. So if you do it this way, it's good for efficiency because I've now skipped a ton of transactions. If you think about it in the other bike example, come back to this bike example, the 46 pieces where I have these, I actually have to go in and manage the completion of each of these stages. So I have to say, oh, well, how many did I make of the wheel assembly? And I have to go into my production journal. And then I say, yes, I made 96 of them. Great, fill in the 96 and I click post. And then I come into the frame assembly and I do the same thing. And I come in and I say production journal. And then I do it here and I do it here. But if you think about it, if you are producing something in a make to order environment, which is more streamlined, like you start here at this line and you end up with a finished bike, and each station you're basically adding more and more components. There's no need to have those extra steps going in and out. And lean and just in time is all about reducing that. So that's why you can have the indented bill of material. It will allow you to maintain the uniqueness and the version control of all of those different subassemblies, but now you've reduced some of the headache behind it. What it does, though, is it doesn't provide a lot of clarity as to what I'm supposed to be building at what station. So if I come back in, my routing would probably have to be expanded. It's not just assembly department. I would probably want to have other work centers because I had other work centers before. So the other work centers would be not, this would be the wheel assembly, and this would be the frame assembly. So we're moving things from one workstation to the next workstation. But the trouble here is that it's not related. We're not relating the components. So what you need to do is say, well, I need the wheel and the rim at this operation, and I need whatever the aluminum and the paint at this operation. So in order to do that, in order to make this more efficient and clear for people, especially if you're going to capture it at that level, is you're going to have to go in and set up something called routing links. So the routing links allow us to go in and, oops, close out of that. The routing links allow us to specify what materials are related to what operation. Come back into the production BOM. And we're going to go back to the bike. Okay, so you'll find off to the side, we have this column called routing link. And what the routing link allows us to do is it allows us to connect and be very clear as to what materials are required at what operation. What you can later do, so I'm going to connect these two items to operation one, or to the assembly. Now this is just a code. You have to go and connect it. I'll say, I'll just call it inspection. Oh, that's right. They're uniquely connected, not at the BOM level. I'll just do this for right now, and we're going to certify that. So that routing link exists here, but it's saying we can't do it because I didn't set up the routing link on the routing itself. So we're going to go back into the routing, and we're going to connect these two together so that it'll be very clear what materials are required where. So in here, we're going to say we're under development and 100. This is my wheel assembly. This is my frame assembly. And say, sure, 1 minute to do that. And then there'll be something off to the side called routing link. And I'll say all parts with this code are required at this operation. And we'll go back and certify that. And that should allow us to come back to the bill of material and certify it. And then we can come back and refresh our production order and see what it did. Come back to this, come back to that. Okay, so now when I say refresh production order, if I did everything correctly, it won't change anything here. But now if I did it correctly and I go into my production journal, it's going to start to associate what parts are required at what operation. You see how now it says, oh, for the frame assembly, you need the handlebars and the seats. Now, if I kept doing that, it would say frame assembly, handlebars and seats, wheel assembly, the next two, and then so on and so forth. And now it's really, really clear what is required for what assembly or workstation. There's a secondary benefit to it, is that you can still maintain the completion through the work and process cycles. So instead of having inventory at each of these levels, I've now moved to a concept of managing work and process. And this there's an ability in the system to backflush at an operation level, which is really what you want to do from a lean environment. You're going to say, well, I completed the frame assembly, I made one, and it will automatically consume the handlebars and the seats simultaneously. Nothing else, just at that level, these two items. So you can imagine I have this long production run, and maybe it's taking a week or two, and I've got product, I've got assemblies here, some here, maybe 150 and 20 and 10, and they're all spread out, and it's taking a week to make this large production run, but it's efficient. You being able to backflush what you require at each operation without the headache of having all these sub-assemblies moving in and out of inventory is very nice. It's very nice, and it's a very lean and efficient way of managing it. So that gave you, hopefully, a pretty good example of what you would want to do if you wanted to make a lean manufacturing environment, if you wanted to make to order, and then B, streamline the manufacturing flow and the changes that you would have to do into your Business Central system to handle that. The third thing that I wanted to cover is just-in-time purchasing. So just-in-time purchasing, and I'm going to drill in. Let's say that these tire rims, let's say that they're really kind of expensive. So I don't necessarily want to keep in inventory tire rims because they tie up cash. So probably everybody's affected by the COVID crisis now, and you want to make sure that you're buying what you need and using your money wisely for operations, other things. Oops. I just kind of changed on me. I want to go to the list of items and it just kind of switches. So yeah, there we go, items. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to set up just-in-time purchasing. So we go into the rim tires, and remember we only had 4, but I'm building like an order for 50. So down below there's an area called planning, and the reorder policy that we want, the just-in-time version, is something called lot for lot. What it does is it aggregates material within a period of time. In this case, I'm going to say aggregate the material that I need every 3 days and purchase it 1 day in advance. So 1 day in advance is here. Now I can make it 0 days, but then that might be a little too close. So we said grab all the material that I need every 3 days and make a PO and bring it in 1 day in advance. That's what this represents. I'm not going to keep safety stock. If I was concerned about maybe the quality of parts coming in, I might in a safety lead time. That's just going to, ensure that maybe the product comes in 2 days before I have it scheduled, before it's going to run, so that I could make a last minute adjustment. But I'm going to keep, no safety stock. I'm basically buying everything to order, and it's going to not create a purchase order for every order, but it'll group all of the items together. The only other thing I need is a vendor. So come in here, we'll pick on a vendor. Custom metals is good. Okay, so now that that's set up, you'll go into your planning worksheets, which is the MRP portion of the software. And if you remember, I think I had 2 or 3 of these bikes in the system. So we're going to go ahead and calculate the regenerative plan. And right now it's looking for food. Don't want to do food. We just want to do items. In this case, I just want to do the tires. So it'll look at all of the demand for the tires. I better delete that out. Oh, I thought I selected everything. Select more. Boom. Delete all these guys out. And now I'm able to run the regenerative plan. That should be okay. I'm going to take those out. And it will run through. I don't have a lot of inventory here. It's going to go through all the parts, then all the levels, and give me a nice error here. Bummer. What it should have done on the screen, I don't know why it kind of errored out there. It must be version 16. It'll give me a purchase order on the screen of just what I need, just in time. What it will try to do, let me go into the items for that rim and I'll try to explain it on that screen. Okay, so if we go into something called availability, I can find it here. Here we go. Item availability by event. And I don't want to do it by day, I'll do it by week. Okay, so you can see here that I have a production order for 115, 119, and 120. Let's just say in my simple example that I'm buying inventory per month. And instead of putting it 3 days, I said it per month. Then it would create a purchase order to fill December. And it would say, okay, short 2, buy 2. And then in November, short 93, buy 93. It'll buy just what you need, nothing more on the screen. It will take into consideration the inventory and then allow you to keep it level all the way through. The planning suggestions are, if I had them turned on, those are the planned orders that would be created in advance. So there you go. In summary, there was 3 different ways of capturing or implementing just-in-time manufacturing. Number 1 was coming in and turning on the toggle called make to order. Make to order would be used when you accept sales orders. You're going to use the order promising functionality to commit the inventory to a particular date and then build to order a 1 level or multi-level bill of material. That's step number 1. Number 2 is that if your production line, if you wanted to streamline it into maybe 2 different lines, you could flatten the bill of material and use routing links to make it very, very efficient and just in time of the delivery. It says these materials are required at this date because I'm scheduling a particular operation. And then the third thing that you can do is you can come in and turn on the lot for lot and don't put any safety stock in, maybe put a safety lead time in, and then turn the toggle to maybe buy 3 days at a time, and it will group everything you need in 3 days and buy it just in time for your production schedule. So with that, I'm going to end the tech talk. Tanya, I saw you came on the call. Did you have any questions before I jump off here?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Thank you, everyone. This is Mike signing off for today on how to implement just-in-time manufacturing within Business Central. Bye for now.